to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Creighton.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And I'll start off by saying that just before we got started and while we were awaiting our guest to join us here on the platform, Jody Lynn and I were talking, and I was telling her I'd been watching a very old film from about 15, 20 years ago that talks about quantum physics. And it made me think, we haven't talked about quantum physics in the longest time here on the show. We ought to bring that back in as a topic at some point. So who knows? Maybe it'll come up as part of the topic today. You never really know. It's kind of like one of the theories of quantum physics, which is that atoms kind of tend to appear and disappear at random intervals. So, that's what happens here on the show. Stuff kind of appears and disappears at random intervals. That's what's going to happen. So that's all I can predict. I don't know what else is going to happen. We're going to find out because our guest is going to give us a clue about what goes on in her world. And that's going to give us a lot of atoms that are going to come into existence. But we'll deal with those as they come along. So Hilary DeCesare, oh God, I forgot to ask the pronunciation of her last name. DeCesare, is it DeCesare? What is it?
DeCesare.
DeCesare, okay.
DeCesare.
All right. So Hilary, well, I'll just stick with Hilary. Hilary is easier. I can handle that one. So welcome to the program. How are you doing today?
Wow, it's so good to be here.
Good to have you. We're going to have a very good time. Now, you are the founder of the ReLaunch Company. And what is that all about?
You know, what it's all about is I like to call the middle age the mid zone. And the mid zone is a time where a lot of people are having you're getting bombarded, by the atoms, by the things that are coming into your world. You've got aging parents, you've got kids that are aging and they're either, going to be leaving you and you become an empty nester. But you're also trying to figure out, all right, what's going to really happen with my business, with the future direction? How is this all going to come together so that my purpose of why I'm really even doing this, how do I have an exit strategy? How can I create financial freedom so I can actually enjoy myself as I'm moving into this newfound freedom of being able to do different things? And the relaunch concept really came when I began to get bombarded with just a lot of things that you really want to avoid in your life. I had both my parents die. My mom passed from stage 4 colon cancer and totally unexpected. I had my kids were having some health issues. I had melanoma. I'd gotten divorced. I mean, you name it. It was like boom, boom, boom. It was like asteroids, right? You're like, oh, trying to dodge them. And I realized that I'm not alone with this. And so what's really happening to us when we get bombarded with relaunches that are either personal, professional, or what we've all experienced, which are global relaunches. And I thought, you know what, after being in corporate for over 10 years, high-tech company in Oracle in the Silicon Valley, after launching multiple companies, after coaching for over 20 years, I realized that where were the success points? How did people gracefully get through some of these? How did they actually strive and become even more successful in whatever they are deeming as their, lifestyle of success? And I thought, you know what? It's time that I put together and I wrote a book. As a lot of people, when they're going through a lot of like big relaunches in their life, I wrote Relaunch, Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life. And that changed everything because I realized that the processes that I had, once I started to have to put them in a very compact, do this step, this works. I've seen the success rates. I've seen the key performance indicators. I thought, you know what? I gotta get this out to more people because we're not taught. We're not taught about quantum physics. We're not taught about, law of attraction or the law of resonance or any of the universal laws. We're very much a society that is the left brain, right? IQ, your intelligence, your problem solving abilities. What are the steps, the procedures, the strategies? And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And so what happens is you eventually run into, well, wait a second, there's that thing called EQ, emotional intelligence. Came out in the 90s. And next thing you know, you've got IQ and EQ, and they're kind of like, in a boxing match. And which is the right way? Who's going to get that, the left hook? And I realized that today's changed so much, and it's not a new normal, it's a new different. And so the concept that I formulated around all these years and years is called 3HQ. And the H's are your headquarters. And there's 3 departments: your head, your heart, and your highest self. Highest self is the best version of you. Best version of you. And that's what I really, with ReLaunch, and why I'm so passionate, why I love to, have conversations with people like you both, is that there is so much that can be easy, can be simple, and as you like, LOA, like having a little fun infused, because life is very short. And I have realized that only too often with my own life and my clients' lives. And so, it's never been a better time than right now to relaunch. And let's start having fun with life, and let's start impacting what we can do to really make a change in our own life, and thus make changes in everybody else's life too.
Jody Lynn, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking about a theme that plays out over and over here on the program. We get wonderful guests who come on. They tell us these horrible, traumatic stories they went through, and then they come out the other side with these brilliant ideas. All these different ways of making their lives better, and accomplishing goals they couldn't accomplish before, and having things happen that never happened before. And then they want to share it with the universe, which is also a wonderful thing. And I have to say, though, Hilary, this whole idea of a relaunch, that really resonates with me particularly well today. I don't know what it is about today, but I love this. I think partly because in the last 6 to 9 months, I went through a divorce. And so I've been going through a recreation, creating my new life. And I kind of have been going through a relaunch. It's a great term. I love the term.
That kind of, you have.
Well, okay, yeah.
that is a relaunch, and it's the significant moments. But on the flip side, and I have been divorced, and when I got divorced, I had 3 little kids, and I was running a business. I was out on the road all the time raising capital from venture capitals out there, and I felt like when I was at home, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do with my work. When I was at work, I was feeling like I was being a terrible mom. And there's the pressure of the D word, divorce, and feeling like, there's no, and I can say this because I went through it. You don't walk down that path when you're about to get married and think, hey, this is going to end. This isn't going to be a forever. You have a dream, and anytime your dream ends up breaking apart, ends up, the combustion happens. There is that time that you have to reflect on it. The society these days is so into let's race through, let's move, like let's get you out and dating, and let's find you a love and get married and all this stuff. And it's like, just pause. I call it in the book, the pause principle. Can we just take a moment to just be, to understand that in order to move forward in a positive relaunch, you've got to bookend. You got to bookend that past relaunch. When I first launched my podcast, it was called the Silver Lined Relaunch, and I interviewed over 100 people on relaunches, and these were people that had, literally been zipped up in a body bag. They were pronounced dead. They had been ripped to shreds in accidents. They had, been just horribly violated when they were young. They had lost worse losses. And it's interesting, every single time I would always ask, either on the show or after, I'd say, if you could go back and change what happened to you, would you? Do you know not one person?
Not one.
So not one wanted.
It's almost alarming when you hear that too.
Yeah.
Think about that. We're talking like the worst of the worst, and not one, because it was through the relaunch, through the journeys. And what I did is I captured all these incredible, like, how'd you do it? And so, Walt, you said 8 months ago you got divorced?
6.5 was when the divorce happened. Yeah.
6.5.
Yeah.
And 6.5 months ago. And so at this point, there's something I call the relaunch effect. And the relaunch effect is the first thing you have to do is really look at it and understand how you contributed to it, right? The
Mm.
responsibility, because as a person who got divorced, you can point fingers super easy.
Oh, yeah.
With
First thing
big,
you do.
like, hey, the way I saw it, I was great. I did everything right. But when you go back and you literally reassess and you have the opportunity at that point to release the negativity, if there is negativity, right? I've had some people come to me and they're like, no, actually, in these certain relaunches, there wasn't. It was a numbness, right?
Mm.
There's a point where people out. Jody, you get this. You tune out of things because sometimes it's just easier. And what I try to do is get people to say, hey, we've all had, I don't know if this is a G rated, but we've all had the S hit the fan. We've all had this. And at some point you got to say, you know what? That's who I am. I am me because of all the S storms that hit. And guess what? I've made it through. There's something I do want to share because it just came to me. In the highest self, I define the highest self as this is your G zone. You've already heard me say the mid zone. And this is now in the highest self, your G zone. It is your great zone. It's your gratitude zone. It is that place of growth. And how do you grow is how you look back in order to move forward. And the biggest growth I have seen from people that are, whether it's 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, whether you are, going and IPOing your company, the biggest growth comes when you're willing to reflect, when you're willing to say, this is what happened. This is what I got from it. This is the lessons I've learned from it. And you know what? I'm still pretty darn proud. I am where I am right now. And that's a big deal because it literally is setting yourself up for future success. Without it, you're going to keep it's that whole concept of you keep going back and repeating until you finally have grown through by the learning so that you can move forward. So, Walt, I don't know where you are in that process of really relaunching from 6.5 months ago, but there is a time where that, the awareness, they talk about awareness, understanding, and knowledge, right? Awareness of, you know what? It's not the way I wanted it to end. There were good times. And understanding that, you know what? We came together. It didn't work out. We're moving forward now. Whether there's the cheating, whether there was just you grew apart, whatever happened, you take that perspective of almost like Albert Einstein when he said, you can't solve a problem. You can't solve a problem at the conscious level it was created. It's you looking back. And the image I always like to create in people's mind is, you are walking into the movie theater and Walt, you got front row, whether you like it or not.
Lucky me.
Lucky you. You know how there's always that one seat left in the movie theater when it's sold out and you're like, oh my God, my neck's going to kill me after this. That's all you. It has the big W on it. And there you are. When your life is playing out and you're able to look at it from a different perspective. You talk about quantum, you talk about, time, dimension, that it's all one and the same, that energy is one and the same. This is where this all becomes so important that you have the ability to create how you view that outcome. And the best part is your subconscious brain, just like it doesn't know the difference between a good habit and a bad habit, it doesn't know the difference between, hey, that was a great experience and that was a terrible experience. It only knows it wants to keep you safe and familiar. So it's going to keep doing what it's doing until you reprogram, rewire, and go back and say, yeah, you know what? Hey, I'm gonna make sure I get the lessons out of it, because I don't want that to happen again.
Well, in answer to the query you asked earlier, the FCC has nothing to do with this. So while I tend to keep it clean, that doesn't mean guests and co-hosts do. Feel free to swear until
I can drop all
okay.
the F-bombs I want. Well, there are, I laugh because, sometimes when people start to hear me talk about, the zones, I'm like, no, I'm not going to go anywhere in any of the G zone, the G zone, the mid zone, all this, this is what we're doing.
And in terms of when the turning point was, I think it was pretty much about 5 minutes after I found out that she left. That was the oh shit moment, and then from that point on, it's been dealing with exactly what you talked about. But before I even go there, I mean, Jody Lynn's head has been bobbing up and down about 700 times over the last 5 minutes. I get the feeling she kind of resonates with this a little bit. So Jody Lynn, I'm going to go to you. What is it? Yeah, something's grabbing your attention right now.
Oh, I just love it. I think that this idea of relaunching happens more often in our lives. And I think, when you're younger, whatever, people call it like, the midlife crisis or whatever. But this relaunching I have felt happen in my life several times, like maybe every 7 years, there's a new cycle I'm moving through and I'm learning through. And some of the most profound learning experiences have come from reflecting on those hard moments and seeing the gratitude in them. Because I'm like those people you were talking about on your podcast, Hilary, all the bad shit that's ever happened in my life, I wouldn't undo it. I wouldn't change it. And you know what? My niece asked me that like a month ago. She's like, if you could like redo one age of your life, what would you redo? And I said, nothing, because it would all impact where I am right now here in this moment with you. And I am so grateful for this moment with you and who I am now. So I can't undo it. I can't redo it. It was exactly the way it was meant to be. And I'm so grateful for that. And I spent a lot of time in reflection. And I think that if it was more, I'll say, socially acceptable to go through these relaunches, or if maybe more people started talking about it, that it's not just like a once in your lifetime, things are gonna hit the fan and you're gonna want to relaunch your life. Maybe if it was more acceptable or talked about in our lives, that's okay. That's how you learn and grow, is by looking back and then choosing a new way forward. I love this conversation.
Well, and what you said there is so accurate. First off, there's so many of the relaunch experiences that are still the taboo types of words, the things that are looked down upon, like the D word, divorce. Oh my God. It's like you're carrying a scarlet A around your neck. Really? Really? With 50% or more getting divorced first time, I think it's 67% second time, 78% for third marriages. I think we better, instead of like looking at that, we better be saying, what can we do right? Well, how can we change this? A funny story that I do want to share with you. So when I got divorced, I decided I knew I wanted to get married again. Again, I had small kids. I'm like, I love love. I wanted to have the Cinderella experience. I wanted that. And I decided to really look and search out people who had really great relationships. You talk about identities. And I believe that when you're in the mid zone, and instead of having a midlife crisis, you really go through a midlife identity. It's an identity crisis that's really happening. And what happens when you start to think about this whole idea around you have a marriage that breaks down, and how would you then incorporate, like, okay, my identity of the future person that I really want to be, when I don't have a clue because I just got divorced, it didn't work out that way. So I looked for couples who had what I really ultimately would love to be. And so I did. I searched high, I searched low. And I finally found three couples that I knew were like, oh my God, this is what I want to create in my life. This is, like, you talk about manifestation. I want to be a manifestation magnet for that. And I talked to them and I asked them like, hey, how do I get there? What makes it work? And, what do you do when somebody just full on pisses you off? And how do you handle these? And it was so great because they gave me their answers, and I'm a businesswoman. I've told you my background. I love business. I love helping people grow their businesses. But I also said I love love. But there was a point in my life where I really did not like myself. I didn't like who I'd become. I remember listening. I was at a Tony Robbins event, and he was up on stage and he started talking about, you got to love your life, love your business, love, 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 love. And I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that. Because right now I got so much self-sabotage going on in my head. I've got so much of this like negative. I've got like, I'm just beating myself up. I got the judge going on. And I thought to myself, it's interesting as he was, making sure everyone love and get there fast and do it and just have the right mindset. I thought, what if I'm not Evel Knievel and I can't jump over the Grand Canyon because I will crash and burn. My motorcycle is never going to make it. I said, what if I didn't try so hard to go to love and I only went to like? Just get me to like. I like me. And I went down a path for that. And I started to incorporating that into literally thinking about the couple of how I want to be in the future. And a very circuitous, crazy moment in time, I decided to go to New York and become a matchmaker, a certified matchmaker at the Matchmaking Institute. And I did this because I thought, okay, I love business. I love interpersonal communication, relationships, but what makes people want to be with certain people? Why do we keep going back to narcissistic people, like, the heavily attached people? Why do we keep doing that? And so I became a matchmaker. No, that is not what I do today. So I have mentioned this story before and I get these like, hey, I want to hire you to be my matchmaker. I don't do that. But what I do is I get you to start dating yourself. Because I will ask you, would you want to date you? Walt, right now, would you want to date you at this point? You don't have to answer.
Okay. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So here's the thing. There are a lot of people out there that were kind of like me, sitting there saying, hell no. No, I wouldn't want to date me. Mm-hmm. And so you got to start somewhere in this. And Jody, you brought up that whole idea of, the midlife crisis. Brene Brown says midlife is anywhere from 35 until you're dead. There isn't that ending until it's done, right? So when you think about who you want to be in all different areas of your life and you try to really focus on it, you heard me mention the 3HQ. And the first H I said was head, the head, the heart, the highest self. Well, what goes on in the head are these thoughts, your limiting beliefs, your empowering beliefs. I like to call them bugs, your beliefs underground surfacing. We all have bugs. We do. I like to give a good old bug a name. And so you got some things, whether it's not 3 core, I call them the queen bees, the queen bugs are, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable and I'm not safe. A lot of times people are like, safe, well, I really got a bug around money. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Let's talk about the money. Money is safety. Money is like, what is going to help you put the roof over, how you're going to continue. Did you know when I was doing research on my book, the number one fear, the number one belief, limiting belief that affects women is that they're going to become a bag lady. Even Oprah, still to this day, has the same belief. And so her bug, she also has a weight issue bug, right? In her limiting belief, she still thinks I'm a heavy set, overweight woman. And she goes up and down. The beliefs, the bugs get in our way because when you think about it, a thought and an emotion repeated over time create your belief system. right? So you have these thoughts when you're young. You have these thoughts about, if you've been through some really horrific relaunches, if you've gone through divorce of parents when you're young, if you've gone through, as little as you get up in front of the class. I had a client who had, his zipper was down and his whole class started laughing at him. It was trauma to him. Would it have been trauma to Walt? Who knows? But everyone kind of it interprets it differently, right?
You can take would have out of there, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing to really think about here is if you're in your head, you can't get out of your head. You can't get away from these thoughts. The greatest part about it is that you have an opportunity to, just like, Ghostbusters, just like, the guy that you call the Orkin Man to come get rid of the bugs, you can get rid of them. But here's the thing. The bugs are neuro-based. They're in your head. This is neuroscience. It takes to break on a scan of your head, it takes 62 to 67 days for that to actually, we talk about retrain the brain. That's how long it really takes. So today, in today's world, people are like, I can take you through it and it is fabulous and we will break it away. But what people want is a quick fix. They want something that you can do right away that's going to, like, hey, right now, I got global relaunches happening. I got personal, professional. I want something right now that will allow me to go from a low energy, low vibrational energy, which is where all trouble is, shame, blame, fears. And I want to go higher. I want to get to that Einstein, like, how can I look at this situation differently? So I'm going to ask both of you if you would be willing to get a little coaching, have a little fun here.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
To the exit stage, right? Let's do something a little different. And I want to really help your audience understand that there is that quick, very easy, simple, it's called Tune In. And it allows you to change the state of your energy. So when you are at a low vibrational energy, anytime during the day, it could be, that you're about to go do a social media post. It could be that you're about to, get on LOA today and you want to just bring your A game. Whatever it is, you have the ability. And I have people using what I'm about to share with you 25 times a day. And this will get you to a high level so that you can actually attract at a high level, because we know low level attracts low level. That's energetics. That is what this is all about. What we want to do is we want to up level you by tuning in. So it's like, imagine it's like energy on demand. So instead of having to go and get that cup, third cup, fourth cup of coffee in the late afternoon, you can tune in. And it will actually do far more for you. You're not going to have that sudden, slamming back to earth. So it's called the tune in process. It's 4 steps. And like I said, you can use it at any time during the day. Okay. Are we ready?
I think so.
Okay. Step one is I want you to think of a challenge that is going on in your life right now. It could be business. It could be personal. And if you're willing to share it, let us know, what is that challenge?
Okay. I have a couple I can think of, but I think I know which one I'll go with.
Okay. Give me one of them.
All right. Well, as my listeners know, because they know pretty much what has happened in the last 9-10 months since my ex left. Everything, and you know how this is when you go through a divorce, everything just kind of goes crazy, and everything did go crazy for me. Literally, my income, my living situation, my marriage. There's like this long list of things that were all just kind of thrown up in the air, like a deck of cards being thrown up in the air onto the floor. And you're going to try to put that deck back together again. But I also had been through a similar experience, not a divorce, but a similar experience some 7 years, 8 years before that. And so I knew, well, you just have to kind of hang in there because it's all going to fall together. And sure enough, over the next few months, everything fell together. There's one that I'm still waiting to fall in place. And that is the relationship piece, because that's the big part that blew up, and that part hasn't actually fallen into place. So yeah, for me, it's my biggest one right now is relationships.
Okay. So the relationship with your ex. Or is it
Actually, the creation of
What
future relationship,
Oh, future. Okay. So,
finding the next partner. Yeah.
okay. Remember what I said way back? If
Oh,
you
yes.
rewind. Okay.
I was paying
So,
close attention.
so it's finding a new relationship. Okay.
Right.
Great. All right. Now, again, when we think of a challenge, it can also be something that is an intention. Like before I got on your show, I did the tune in process, and there wasn't a challenge. What I really wanted to do was I really wanted to be able to connect to
Mhm.
one listener out there that's going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to use that tune in process that Hilary DeCesare talked about.
Mhm.
That is an intention, just like a challenge can be both positive and it can also be negative. You have both.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. So Jody, what is your challenge or your intention?
Letting go of control and leading into faith.
Oh, faith over fear, baby. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So now that you have those in your mind, those are very head based. We're going to move into the second step, which is change the channel. Because again, those challenges are low level. As I mentioned, shame and blame, and this isn't working. And why can't I figure this out? And why hasn't this happened for me? Why can't I, give up control? Or why am I holding on so tight to everything? And here's what you need to realize, that in order to change the channel, in order to elevate yourself out of that low energy, low emotional energy vibration, we need to elevate ourselves. Okay. And in order to do that, I do it through music, which is also very much from a neuro-based perspective. Music, art, it elevates us when you're listening to the song. So I want to ask you both to come up with a song that when you hear it, it lights you up. Like you cannot be low energy. You can't be bummed or blaming people or shame or all this bad stuff. You're like, no way. I hear it and it lights me up. Do you guys have a song that when you hear it, it just takes you to a different place?
And just to let listeners know, we actually did get a heads up about this before the show. So Jody Lynn and I have had like half an hour to figure out what that song is going to be.
Yes, but I don't know it. So that's
No, you don't know it. No, we haven't told you yet.
okay. So Jody, what is your song?
I don't know the name of it, but it's Celebrate.
Okay. Celebrate?
Yeah.
Is that like, we're going to celebrate and party with you. Okay. Is that it?
Yeah,
Celebration.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's Cool in the Gang, right? Isn't that
Cool in the Gang. That's who it is.
Okay. So Celebrate. And Walt, what is your song?
Believe it or not, Celebration was number 2 on my list.
Ah.
It really was, honestly. Okay. But number 1 on my list, and this is more of recently than anything else, is a song by Earth, Wind, and Fire called September.
Oh, that's such a good song. Okay. Yeah. So everyone out there listening, think of your song, right? Your challenge. Then step 2, that song that's going to elevate you. So neuroscience, again, you're going to hear me do this all the time. I got a degree in psychology. I've been studying neuroscience for over 10 years. This is where I geek out. I love this stuff. In order to...
No kidding. We kind of got that feeling just a little bit. I'm just saying, it's a little bit of a vibe coming through.
I love it. I love it all. So here's what we have to do. We are going to literally turn up the volume of celebration in September in our heads. And we're going to have it go all the way from our head down to our feet. You are going to move your body. People often ask, like, hey, should it be on right now? No, don't, because they'll actually shut us down because, it will be violating the music laws. So we got to think about it in our head. But here's the thing. You can, if you're by yourself, turn it on, dance around, elevate, but you got to do it for 20 seconds. 20 seconds or more is the magic number. That is when there is, on the scans again, that is where things start to change for you. All right. So again, you take it from your head, shut your eyes, move your body. For those driving, don't do this, but just think about it. And I want you to literally get into that energy. All right.
I don't know how to tell you this, but I actually play my song when I'm driving and I am bouncing it around. So don't follow my example necessarily, but I do.
For those out there, I do not recommend it, but whatever is right for you. So now we're going to go into step 3. And step 3 now is you both, congratulations, are going to be the best actor and the best actor of the year. And you are going to create a mini movie of your mind. You are going to be that Academy Award winner. You're going to direct it. You're going to be in it. You are going to see yourself, first off, in an incredible relationship, well, with somebody that is really, truly your soulmate, that person you're meant to be with, that person who makes you laugh, the things that are most important to you, your core values. You are really in alignment. Okay. And Jody, you are going to create a movie where you are like this control thing. You're like, hey, I'm the like queen of delegation. I am like, my business is like taking off because I am bringing in the right people. I am giving them things. And now when you both are creating this, you are feeling the power behind what you're creating, the excitement, and you're noticing a color that you're wearing, a color that you're seeing. And this is one of the most important parts. You are going to tune in again to the song, tune into that color and intensify it. You know how you always hear people say like 10x it. Well, I want you to take it up from 1x to 2x to 3x, intensifying your feeling and the color, intensifying it to 10x, where it's like, holy, this is like the best movie I've ever seen. It is the greatest trailer. It is in Times Square. It is being played, you know, as the ball drops. It's right there. It's happening. Okay. And what we're also going to do is take, because, you know, with every great trailer, there's always good pictures that follow. You're going to take an internal picture. It's not about the outside world. It's about the internal. And remember, again, subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's going on the outside, what's going on in here in the mind. So we want to take a picture. And the way you're going to do that is anchor it by opening and closing your eyes by saying the word click. Click, and you take that internal picture. Click, take the internal picture. Again, opening and closing your eyes, not from the outside perspective, but the inside. 3 times. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Got it.
Click. Click. All right. Well, one of those pictures you're loving. One of them is really resonating. That is going to be the one that is going to be on the cover of this unbelievable movie. This is the trailer. This is everything. So what you're going to do now is, as we move from the number 3, and that is the heart, right? It's the emotion. It's that feeling. It's the seeing. It's the encompassing it all. It's the knowing that you know it's going to happen. Then we go into the 4th step, the final step, which is your micro action. And what we want to do is tune in again to elevate ourselves so that we can ask better questions and get better answers. We can, as Walt's going to do, tune into his wise wizard. And you, Jody, are going to tune into your wise woman. And you're going to answer the question, what micro action do you need to do right now before the end of the day after this show that would take you an initial first step towards that incredible movie? What would that be? So tune back into your songs, September, tune back into celebration. And then what would be that first micro step? Walt, what would yours be?
Oh God, I can take one.
What is the first one that you're like, I'm doing this?
Oh man. First one, I guess I'm going to go with there's a woman I met recently and I'm interested in, and we had a nice conversation. So my first step is going to be to send out another message saying, hey, when are we going to do our next conversation?
Perfect. Excellent. And that is small enough, but you could even throw in are you free Friday, Saturday for whether it's a call, whether it's a coffee, whether it's lunch, dinner, whatever it is. You make that happen. That is already starting to tee yourself up in the tune in process. You're no longer tuning out. You're no longer saying, oh my gosh, I've got this, because we're back to the head. If you notice that, because
real quick. It doesn't take long.
One was challenge, head, Step 2 was the whole idea of tune in to the song higher self, change the channel. Step 3, the micro movie or the mini movie of the mind. You're putting that color, intensifying, feeling it. That's heart. And now we're back to the head with the micro step. And this is where, imagine if you did a micro step even once a day on this using the same song, where would you be in 7 days? Imagine if you did it twice, 3 times. You start to get like massive compound interest, right? Okay, so Jody, go back in. You got celebration going. It is like going through. What micro action can you take?
The first words that popped into my mind were lean back. And the visual that I got was to see what I can let go of. So make a list of what I can let go of.
Okay, the list of what you can let go of. So again, how long would that even if you did 1 minute of putting down, here's something but you do it after you tune in again, after you use this song. From now on, Walt, when you're thinking about this future relationship, you're thinking of September. And when you're thinking about this control and giving it up and bringing in like people around you, you're going to be thinking of celebration. All right.
Love it.
I'm loving this. I got to mention something here because I have been doing something similar to what you're talking about, but I hadn't brought a color. And by the way, my color was gold. It instantly came in as gold. And the other thing I had not been doing at all, I have been getting into a high state, playing the song, listening to it, putting it in my mind and so forth. I had not been associating it with a goal. And I thought, well, why am I not doing that? I'm really glad Hilary's pointing that out. Of course I should be. That's when you do it. That's when you're high vibe. That's the best time to start focusing. So I guess I just want to say thanks for pointing that out. Like, oh my God, I've been skipping an important step.
Well, and each time you can actually add more to this incredible movie, right? Take another picture. And as you're developing this, all of a sudden, your mind has an incredible way that initially it takes a little bit more time, but then it just literally plays it back. You have the first one where, maybe you're out at the dinner and then you're out on a beach holding hands, walking, and then you're hiking and then you're skiing and then you're, going to Italy and then you literally have the ability to just go. It's like the olden days, the movie theaters where it goes. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, very cool.
It's amazing.
It's all part of 3HQ, head, heart, highest self. And this is where it becomes so powerful because people will come and they'll say, let's just talk about my business. Or let's just talk about, I just have this personal issue. I just want to get through that. It's all one and the same. Your business is a direct reflection of you. Your life and what's going on is a direct reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if you want to know what's going on inside of you, just look at what's on the outside because that's what's going on.
Yeah, that always pisses me off. I love the test, but I don't always like the results of the test.
And that's why I think, I have on the website, I have a 3HQ quiz that can let you know, and it gives you, where you are in each of the quadrants of, are you more head-based? Are you more heart? Are you in your highest self? And it gives you an idea because we all like to, it's all self-reflection of like, where am I? What does this all mean? But the most important is that realize, and I'll just give one example in the head. All right. So when you're talking about the future identity of you, and let's say you want to create your business into 7 figures. Okay. And right now you're in the low 6s and you're crafting the identity and you're getting very, very clear and you can tune in. It's awesome. It works. It's fantastic. But then your business also has an identity of where you want it to be in a year. And then when you get the 2 and you're very clear, right? It's clear plan, accountability. And so just as now, Walt, I'm going to ask you, when you send this fabulous lady this invitation to see you, you're going to DM me and say, done. And just as Jody, when you are done with your list, you're going to send me a note. Hey, Hilary, done. Because what this does is it allows for the dopamine to start, right? Because you've accomplished something. You're like, the word done is a trigger for us because it's no longer to do, to do, to do. It's to done, to done, to done. So it's really important that as you think about your business and you have these two, like you're on a highway and you've got the two lanes, they eventually come together in order to exit the highway, right? You gotta kind of all come together in order to get off. There's an exit. And what we want to be doing is merging our business with our head. And guess what? Your business has limiting beliefs too. Oh, we never do good. And, we never do well in Q2. Oh gosh. We always are on like the roller coaster. We have the big January is always slow for us. These are all beliefs. These are all right. And this is what we do.
I know those real well, by the way. I used to ride that roller coaster every year. It was like clockwork.
And the quarters that, oh, this is always a really good one for me. And then what happens when circumstance throws you yet another relaunch and you don't have a good quarter, the quarter that you always have a good quarter because your belief system says, then everything crumbles. And that's where having a strong 3HQ foundation will weather the storms, will weather the relaunches, and it will create, I grew up in LA, earthquake. I mean, and I always thought it was interesting on the highways, you would have, overnight, they would cover up a hole, a pothole. And lo and behold, like either a rainstorm would come, which we weren't used to, or another earthquake, and it would just pop right back open. And this time it would go even bigger because the foundation wasn't there. So we have to learn, we have to take kind of a step back, get the foundation so that we can actually move forward into success, and not when little earthquakes happen, little relaunches happen, it doesn't create that gaping hole.
Yeah, you just described the entire life process of dealing with contrast. I mean, that's the contrast experience right there.
No doubt.
Isn't that the truth?
And it's not like we haven't had any contrast, right, Jody Lynn? I mean, we haven't had a lot of opportunity to practice with it. No.
Every day.
That's just it. It's a daily experience. And when we're dealing with these daily experiences, it's good to have, we accumulate lots of tools. And so it's always good to have all the tools that we accumulate over time. But this is a really cool one because it actually answers a question that I was asking myself recently. I said, what's my best way to get high vibe before I started focusing on the thing that I'm trying to resolve? Because lately my old tools really weren't cutting it. I like this one. This is good. Tie it into the song. Yeah.
Well, and Walt, think about this. How many times have you come off of a meeting and, the other energy of the other person, low vibe, and you're like, and you got to immediately jump back on. Maybe it's the next show. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's, something super important for you. Maybe you got to go live and, you're about to deliver something. It allows you to do it without anyone else noticing it. You can do it in your own head. Literally, you can build on it. You can practice. I can do it in less than 60 seconds. And it's just a matter of pausing and just taking that 60 seconds because it makes all the difference. It just sets you up for a different level of success in whatever you're about to go do.
Well, it also strikes me this works beautifully, not just with real world situations, but you were mentioning neuroscience and the neurological system. That neurological system can be replaying stuff that's been going on for years that actually is not currently happening, but it plays very loud and very clear in your own head, in your own experience. Those are perfect times to do something like this. Some old program just played, it just put out a scene, and you may have even participated. I just did that, actually. I was taking a shower earlier today, and a scene played out, and even as I'm playing it out, I'm saying, well, you're playing out a scene from 6 years ago. You realize that? But nevertheless, I was playing out that scene, and that would have been a perfect time to tie this in. Because that would be the energy shifter. Right, Jody Lynn? I mean, how often do you do that, right?
Tons. Yeah. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time in the past I was just having this conversation with a friend earlier today. She was like, if I don't save any money, then I'm never going to get there. I'm like, why are you bringing the past? Just because you didn't doesn't mean you won't. Like, start making those steps towards doing the things that you actually want to do. Stop living in the past experience of who you were, or else you're just going to keep getting that same thing repeated over and over and over again. So this is a great exercise to stop that in its tracks and really anchor in the reality that you want to create.
And it's fun.
Yes.
That is like, I got to tell you, when I can play the song, we can actually, and I've done this with, stay on stages with, when it's not being live streamed and it's not on YouTube and they're not going to shut it down because we played a song that, you spent more than 10 seconds or whatever the rule is. It is amazing to see people also embrace the music and how it impacts. And even the people that are like, I don't really have a song. I'm like, well, do you have a genre? Is there something that you just like? It doesn't have to be, it could be, there was a time where I was doing quite a bit of African dance. So I would just play the African dance. But then there was a woman's podcast that I showed up for, and it was an in-person. And I was telling her about Tune In. And she said, so what song did you do right before you came on my show? And I'm like, I got red cheeked because I'm like, oh my God, I always have like my normal go-to song. I do. I have my normal. But for some reason, the song that came to me was that you put the lime and the coconut. And I'm like, I don't lie. So I'm like, you know what? She's like, so she burst out laughing, but she's like, and why would that song resonate with my show? I have no idea. I have no idea. And I was just like, maybe, just maybe when it's me, I'm like, I'm not going to go with that song today. So yes, it was really good.
That also points to something very, 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 very reasonable and rational, which is your song can change from moment to moment. It doesn't have to be the same song.
No, actually, I have a handful of go-to songs throughout the day, probably consistently about 5. And one may be for when I'm creating anything on marketing, social media. Another is getting on to any type of stage, right? It's not a challenge. I'm really going for impact. I'm going for the intention. And then I have another one when I am trying to really, kind of finance, right? There's those times when you're like, rah, rah, like you got to be like dealing with all of the great things about your business, and you're looking at that, and I'll be like, I need to elevate. And I have a song that I play in my head before I do that as well. And so I have them kind of so I can go to them fast. So I've already identified 5 songs. And that's what makes it even easier if you're trying to really figure out like, what are my songs? But then, as you said, Jody Lynn, as you said, all of a sudden you'll hear a new song. I mean, Flowers, when Miley Cyrus came up with that, I'm like, oh my God, that's like, I got to put that into my, repertoire. That's too good. And then, all of a sudden another song comes up. So I kind of move songs in and move songs out. And then every once in a while, I'm like, I just need to, connect, and I'll be like, all right, I'm way out there. I'm squirreling all over the place. I'm going to go with like Hallelujah, because that, it goes really Hallelujah, all the way high. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I'm there, and I'm going to make this happen. And so have fun with it. That's the best part.
It is. Well, I agree with that. Having fun with it is going to be the best part of any strategy that you follow. So when you've come up with a strategy where the best part, the have fun with it, is easy, because that's what this is. You've made it easy to have fun. I think we just kind of eliminate like 3 of the barriers that get in the way of people who are trying to figure out how to get a high vibe. You don't have to get the barrier. The barriers are gone. You just have to think of a song you like. I mean, this is not a difficult thing to do. Anyone can do that.
And it works. And it's like your own power source. It's, and what's really interesting, and I do want to mention this, is when you think about a charging car, right? And you charge the car, you plug it in. And what do they suggest? They suggest that you don't plug it in every single time, that you actually let the battery drain a bit.
Right.
It's not good to keep it like charge, charge, charge. That's the same thing with your highest self, with your energy level. You're not a Ferrari revved at the, the highest point at all time. You have to realize that there are going to be times, there are going to be these, times where you do need to just like, maybe it's not celebration. Maybe it's something a little bit more, contemplative. Maybe it's got like a little bit more of that soul seeking type of energy into it. And that's the thing. People think, and I did too. I thought there was something wrong with me when I didn't feel happy all the time. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like what's wrong with me? And, that whole like, oh, just put on a happy face. And it's like, but there's something going on inside of me. I'm not happy all the time. I can't be at that highest level. I need to take the time. I need to have my own space. I need to just be. And that's what charges me up. But this tune in process allows you to, when you have to, you don't have a choice to be like, hey, I got to cancel this meeting because I just don't feel like I'm on high energy. It gives you the opportunity to recharge quickly, but then always know that there has to be that point where you go back to that leveled out, where you're in alignment with 3HQ, you're in alignment and you're going back and forth between the head and the heart and the highest self. And that's where you talk in flow. That's your flow. That's when it's not exhausting being, oh my God, I just did a retreat and I do it once a year. And at the end, because I'm on such high energy over this period, that I literally, like, it's like after finals when you were younger, you just collapse into bed and you're like, oh my God, I just pulled all night. And you can't do that. It's not sustainable. So you have to realize that this is something that will allow you to up level yourself with your energy on demand. But then you gotta take that time to just be okay with not being at, decibel level, whatever the highest level is. What is a decibel level? 1,000 or something. It's okay. It's okay to be. It doesn't mean that you're operating in the shame, blame of low energy. It means that you're operating at a very content level of just being.
You're reminding me of a way this can be tied into another really cool tool that a lot of people know about. Abraham Hicks talks about the emotional guidance scale. And one of the things that they point out about the emotional guidance scale is if you're at, say, anger, you don't want to go for joy. It's too far up the scale. So you climb the scale one step at a time. If you're at anger, go for, Louis likes to go for revenge. I always like that one. But go for something a little bit higher on the scale. Go for a song, and you can do that with the song. That's my point. You can think of a song that talks about frustration, perhaps, which is higher on the scale than anger. So you go to the frustration song, and then once you're there and you've sat in that frustration zone for a bit, you can go for the boredom song, or you can go for the optimism song. You can climb the scale with this method. This is very cool.
And what you just identified is the whole idea that I couldn't go from self-sabotage, from hate to love. I just wanted
too far.
I just wanted to get to like, let me get to like. And I don't even have to like everything. I just need to like a little something. All right. I like
a little better.
I like that tree outside. It's pretty green today. That's a little teeny, hey, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Micro.
Those baby steps are huge. Wow.
Yeah.
You know what pisses me off, Jody Lynn?
What?
We only get an hour to do these.
I know.
We've blown through an hour doing this. I mean, we could go on for 3 more.
I love it. I could do this. Like I said, I would just have to, you would see me pause for a second. I'd tune back in because, I bring my, my A game, but now as we're, wrapping up, if we were to go another hour, like, oh, let's take a quick break, I'd go right back into my next song, my next tune in process.
And there are so many songs.
And I probably would turn off my video and I'd dance around a bit, like, okay, where are we going with this? All good. We're talking.
I love it.
Yeah.
My goodness. All right. Well, let's do some wrap up. But wow, we could easily be doing a few hours on this one. So first thing, wrap up. All right. I think you've probably convinced at least one listener that they got to find out more about you. So for that one listener, there could be 150 of them for all I know. But
It's
for that at least for that at least one listener out there, how do they find Hilary DeCesare? Because I mean, my goodness.
So you would go to the relaunch.com, and take the 3HQ quiz. And then what I always love is, after a conversation like this, and Jody Lynn, I've been calling you Jody half the time, Jody Lynn the other half. I think you like Jody Lynn, but we're going to keep it there. And while I really love to hear what people's takeaway with the tune-in process was. So by going over to Instagram, the ReLaunch Co on Instagram, and DM me and say, hey, this is what resonated. That's how I know that I actually, intention, that I actually made the impact, that you are getting it. And we are creating a document around the whole tune-in process. And in the next, I think it's going to be out in the next few days. So if you DM me, just say, hey, put me on. I'll immediately get it to you when it's available. And it's going to be pretty incredible. A little video attached and the whole thing.
Jody Lynn, do you get the feeling that she kind of tuned into what my next thing is? Just from the way she said that?
Totally.
I mean, seriously. Because I do this every show, Hilary.
She's reading your mind.
You just tapped right in. I noticed this about a year and a quarter ago, and I've been doing it ever since on the show. Because like so many people who come onto the show, you're a giver. You have found this wonderful thing that you're sharing with other people, actually many things probably, and you're sharing it. You go onto your own podcast, you do this podcast, you probably do 100 other podcasts, you're publishing stuff, you're putting stuff on YouTube, you're doing all this stuff, and it's being consumed by people in many cases you've never met, you've never seen. In fact, you talked about just now how great it is when they do talk to you. And I agree, that's wonderful when they talk to you, but a lot of them don't. And I realized we let that slide. And I said, we can't let that slide anymore. So on behalf of those people you've never met and that you've never seen, thank you for all that you've been putting out there to help people, because you are making a difference in this world.
Well, thank you. I needed to hear that today. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's something that I realized we've got to recognize that more, because that's huge.
We do. We really do.
Yes.
Keep going. And that's a great place to tune in right there. Yeah.
And then, of course, lastly, Jody Lynn, you know where I'm going next. Because I see what you have to understand about Jody Lynn Hilary is that, first of all, she's a fabulous coach. She's also a terrific co-host. And she has this ability to tie things together real fast, like really, really fast. So I go to her at the end of the show and I say, Jody Lynn, when you take what we talked about here, how do you tie it together with a bow on top?
Pressure.
No pressure. No pressure cooker right now. Tune in.
Wrap this up. Hilary, you've had such a beautiful and incredible way of voicing what most people cannot put words to. The things, the ups and downs, the storms that we experience through our lives are a regular thing. This is life. This is part of being human. It's the contrast that we experience. And you've just given us and everybody that's listening today an opportunity to tune in with not only what their head is saying, but what their heart is saying, and really connect with that higher self to be the light and be the change in the world. So thank you for that beautiful lesson today and this beautiful message.
You see what I mean? You see how good she is at tying this stuff together?
Yeah, right there.
Thank you.
That was very good. Thank you.
Well, it was easy.
I have to admit, it is easy.
This is good. I really like the energy going on here.
Well, then I'm just going to finish off by saying thank you for helping us deliver once again your daily dose of happy, because it's exactly what you have managed to help us do today. And we really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. Thank you so much. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.